Jeff Swords. This is my persuasive speech. Video games can be an art form. 1.2 billion. That's how many people play video games in today's world. There's no doubt that the video game industry is huge. It's been growing for decades. It's not going anywhere. And as with any big industries, it has its share of controversies. One in particular is the debate over whether video games can in fact be considered an art form. Now, the earliest video games date back to the 50s and 60s when they first started learning the form. One of the earliest games is entitled Space War from 1961, and this is what it looks like. It's a very basic video game. As you can see, you've got your spaceship and his stars, and he's just flying around shooting at things. Very, very basic. Now, from there, that led to other ones, like 1971's Computer Space by Nolan Bushnell, who would eventually go on to start the company Atari. After that, home consoles became the norm. Ralph Baer, with a company called Sanders Associated, wanted to develop a game system that could be used at home instead of having to go to an arcade to play your video games. That led to the Magnavox Odyssey. Now, after that, the biggest leap forward at the time came in 1985 with the release of the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, with that, we got introduced to 8-bit video gaming. You could actually take the cartridge out and put a different cartridge in, so you didn't have to be stuck with just one game with your console. You could change them out. And there we got games like Super Mario Brothers that we all know and love. Now, not only that, but we also got peripherals, which is things you can use with the video game systems, like the Zapper Gun and the Power Pad. And those helped that leap forward. Now, from there on, we've been seeing it go further and further. The Nintendo 64, the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4, the Xbox 360, and the Xbox One. These developments have led to games getting better and better. You get better visuals, you get better controls, more that you can do with the games, and better storytelling. That's why games have gotten so good, and at times they've been so moving that they've become art in their own right. Now that's led to games like the modern minimalist flower. Now I say minimalist because you don't do anything but control a gust of wind. The gust of wind makes the petals flow, and that's your game. But the visually stunning experience that you get from this, and almost a peaceful sense of well-being, makes for a very elegant gameplay. Now, in order to know if a video game can be considered art, we really need to know what art is. The Oxford Dictionary describes art and defines it as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Now that definition alone qualifies video games as art in my book. But let me share why. Aside from the definition itself, art should evoke that emotion. It should inspire debate over the human condition, or simply give you a breathtaking, beautiful experience like you get with Flower. Now I bring up Flower because it and its subsequent game made by the same game company entitled Journey were two, among others, of a video game exhibit called The Art of Video Games by the Smithsonian American Art Museum in 2012. Now the goal of the exhibit was to, and I quote from their own website, explore the 40-year evolution of video games as an artistic medium with a focus on striking visual effects, the creative use of new technologies, and the most influential artists and designers. Now, not only does the Smithsonian recognize video games as art, but also the BAFTAs, which is the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. The BAFTA Awards recently included video games in their awards as a category showing that they can be artistic, that they can be art. Now, that leads me to the one game that in my eyes is one of the, if not the most artistic games out there, and it's the one that led me to first realize that video games can be art. And it's called The Last of Us. Now that game is set in the zombie apocalypse, and you see more than just what's going on there. It's not just about the blood and gore and the shooting that you would see in a lot of games, even though there is a lot of that in there too. You see the character relationships with each other, you see the character development, you see the emotional journey they're going through, and not only do you see some absolutely heart-wrenching moments that make you not believe that it's actually in a video game, but you also see some really beautiful moments like this, where Ellie and Joel, the two main characters, are going through a dilapidated building, and then what do they find? They find some wild roaming giraffes that have left the zoo after the apocalypse. So a moment like this just goes to show the juxtaposition between the dilapidated building and the times being just dire as they are, and something so just beautiful and random as seeing a pack of wild roaming giraffes that you can interact with. So something like that, you know, is one of many in this game that made me really feel the emotion, the struggle they were going through, the characters, everything about them. So it really came to life. So that is the reason why that one is, like I said, probably my favorite as far as an artistic video game goes. Now, you can't have the debate whether games are going to be art or not without looking at the comparisons that are going in a way that's not so good. So some games have caused the debate as far as people protesting, people not liking them, inciting the anger. There have been games like Grand Theft Auto over the past 10 years that have made a lot of people mad because of its content. But let's look at other forms of art that have done the same thing. Igor Stravinsky's ballet, The Rite of Spring, premiered in 1913, and people nearly rioted due to the avant-garde nature of the music and choreography. The painting by Gustave Courbet entitled The Origin of the World is highly controversial due to its graphic depiction of the female body. So art, music, ballet, dance, these have all seen the same kind of controversies, which is just another reason why I feel like video games can absolutely be considered art forms. There are the detractors. There are the ones that say that it is not art. One in particular is the late film critic Roger Ebert, who said in mid-2000s that video games could never be art. He said that the examples that he had been shown had been pathetic. He said that they, are no form of art at all. He also said, and I quote, "Why are gamers so intensely concerned anyway that games be defined as art? Bobby Fischer, Michael Jordan, and Dick Butkus never said that they thought their games were an art form. Why aren't gamers content to just play their games and simply enjoy themselves?" I'll tell you why. Because in chess, basketball, and football, you're simply playing to score and win. You go into it with the intent of beating your opponent, and that's it. In an artistic video game, you aren't simply trying to score and win. You're being taken on a journey. You're being given the opportunity to examine human nature, or you're being given simply a beautiful experience. The same cannot be said of a simple sports game. In conclusion, this debate, however heated it has become, is a fairly new one. Video games themselves are a fairly new medium. And as they develop, it will only go further and further towards their artistic goals. No matter how you stand on the issue of video games as art, I feel like you could at least consider the notion that video games can be art. Thank you.